Welcome to the latest installment of Brand Brothers. I'm Doug.
And I'm Johnny. Today we're talking about advertising.
All right, let's get to it.
So today we're talking a little bit about advertising. We've talked about marketing. We've talked about branding.
We have.
A lot of people lump marketing, branding, and advertising all in one.
That's stupid.
So is what's part of what? Marketing is part of branding, is advertising. Break it down.
You know the answer, but you're being very polite by asking me instead of just saying, "Hey, let me ask a question."
I am representing the everyman, Doug. Even though
you are way better than that. But to answer your question, branding is the all-encompassing component, whereas marketing is a subset of branding. And I'm not just saying it because I own a branding agency. We consider ourselves a branding and marketing agency. And then advertising is a subset of marketing. So I kind of look at it like this. So branding is the visual and the verbal. It is the representation of the product, the service, or the company. Marketing is what connects the brand to the audience. It is all of the vehicles that communicate who you are as a company, product, or service to your audience, right? It is the line that connects point A, the company, to point B, the target audiences. Advertising is one of the vehicles that drives along that line. And a great metaphor would probably be that advertising is paying for someone to broadcast who you are. It's the megaphone.
Okay, so it's an amplification of.
That's a great way of putting it. Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that I could amplify your definition.
Hey, thanks so much.
So, if you take advertising out of this equation, you still have branding and marketing. You can still operate a business without advertising. Like,
for sure,
businesses do it, right?
There are companies that operate solely on word of mouth. Now, some people might call it word of mouth advertising, but to be real,
well, if you're building like reviews and stuff, that would be one. But it's not really, if you're not really paying for it per se, is it really advertising? To a limited extent, the short answer is yes, it can still be qualified as advertising. But generally speaking, there isn't any sort of amplification that's occurring. It's referrals where someone's like, hey, there's this restaurant that has absolutely amazing soup, and you happen to love soup. I do.
And so you go to this restaurant, and now you too are a patron.
Jambalaya.
Now we have to have a conversation about whether that is soup or stew.
Soup's not a meal. Sorry, I've devolved into Seinfeld quotes. So there's what I'm hearing you describe is that there's sort of there are roles for the branding and marketing, but advertising kind of fills a tactical gap. Is it a tactic under marketing?
That's a really good question. I would say, generally speaking, to broad brush this thing,
sure,
that yes, it is a tactical approach, because your strategy is baked into the marketing side. And so how do you broadcast all of your messaging, and you're promoting it, and that's your advertising.
Agree or disagree with this statement?
Agree.
100%. 100%. Branding builds meaning.
Sure.
Marketing drives demand.
Yeah, sure. I can buy that.
Advertising buys attention.
100%.
Okay.
So I stick with my initial response.
The megaphone?
Yeah, there you go. The amplification is a great way of putting it.
Now, if you're a small business, you're looking at, for some reason, something has made you feel like you need to do some advertising. Where do you start as if I just came to say, like,
PPC,
pay per click. So to explain what that means.
The greatest bang for your buck that also, well, okay, let's rewind. What's the point of the
Because I was just saying, when we were talking about branding, you mentioned like Google Search Console, right? As like the number one tool for a small business to use to help their online presence, right?
That's one feature. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you're basically saying, and for advertising, that is Google AdWords.
I mean, did we get sponsored by Google?
No. I mean, I say Google AdWords, but yes, they're just one of the biggest that do that, and they're probably the most cost effective of all of them. Depending on, I guess it depends on where you're.
Yeah, it depends on your strategy, right? So there are several different ways of approaching this, but the long and short of it is Google Ads definitely makes it easy for you to target your audiences, but they also make it really easy for them to extract funds from your bank account, because they will want you to optimize the way that you're putting out your content, that you're advertising. They're going to try to manipulate you into spending more money than you need to be spending. Instead, what you need to be doing is optimizing your ads based on data, not projection, right? So what they'll often do is go, oh, if you spend triple the amount that you're currently spending per day, that you'll get 5 times the amount of reactions or responses. And of course, they're using their own data to create these projections, but it's not necessarily an honest projection. So, but when it comes to bang for the buck, if the goal is a conversion campaign, then
conversion as in like a sale or
right.
Or what?
I guess a form completion.
You define
qualifies.
your as you like to say, your KPIs, your key performance indicators, your data, right? This is what you're tracking, and that's form fills, purchases,
anything that's
clicks,
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
subscriptions.
What qualifies as a conversion for one company?
Likes and subscribes.
Yes, definitely like and subscribe, please. So when it comes to advertising, when it comes to campaigns, you basically have, and of course, people will argue that there are more than these two funnels, but they're generally either an awareness campaign or a conversion campaign. And so for this, for an awareness campaign, Google Ads isn't the best way to go about it, right? You want to be able to attract more eyeballs, and words generally, amongst other words, are not going to attract eyeballs to generate the attention that you might be looking for. So there are other ways of doing that. In fact, I've seen these billboards that work like the same way as pay-per-click, except they're able to project what the gross rating points are, which basically kind of tells you what percentage of the population is seeing your ad on a billboard. And so you can do a digital billboard on the side of the road, much the same way that you can do a digital display ad using Google Display Ads, or even using something like AdRoll, or just putting them on Meta. But the long and short of it, what is the most cost-effective way that you're likely to see a positive ROI? Time and again, I see this being PPC, pay-per-click.
When you're crafting an ad campaign or a specific ad, what are your non-negotiables? What do you have to see? Like, if what's the point?
So the complication here is that, and I'm speaking from the fact that you have to boil it down to a least common denominator. And your ads sometimes are so small that they are narrower than the width of your smartphone and shorter than maybe, the size of your thumb, right? And so that means...
It's weird to think of it in those terms, but yeah.
Well, but I mean, all you need to do is be able to tap on a banner. And so how much content can you fit there? And I would argue that the most important component to include is a branded call to action.
What does that help me understand that?
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. Well, that's a branded call to action.
Their tagline is the call to action.
It's kind of brilliant.
It's beyond brilliant. There's a reason why it persists.
So you were just talking about, I heard you mention billboards and stuff like that. How do you decide and you mentioned pay-per-click being like obvious, like the low-hanging fruit here. How do you decide if you're going to go outside of that? Billboards, digital signage, radio ads, influencer market. Like there's so many different...
There are. Yeah.
So many different channels.
So first off, you need to begin by determining where your audience is, right? Is your audience on Facebook? Is your audience driving their kid to soccer? Is your audience watching TV on Roku, right? These are psychographics that you need to put together. Of course, you need to know what the demographics are. Is there a gender balance, or is it skewing one direction or the other? What's the age range? What's the household income? Right? These are critical components to identify, because your audience is going to easily fit into a couple of categories. So you want to cast a narrow net. You want to be able to catch the fish that you're wanting, not hoping for just one big fish. Your audience is probably comprised of numerous medium or small size fish, depending on where they might exist. So then once you've identified where they are, then you know where to broadcast to. So if these are people that tend to watch streaming on demand, then it's going to make sense to do OTT and probably YouTube. And if they are on social media, then you're going to want to leverage platforms like TikTok for business and Meta for business.
You said OTT.
Over the top. So when you're watching, for example, this might be a really terrible example, but let's say that you're watching something on Hulu.
Could we be watching the K-pop Demon Hunters?
If that's on Hulu, I haven't seen it. My daughter has,
Netflix,
and apparently she's obsessed.
Yeah,
and
Netflix.
So,
Netflix has got like
okay, so that was a terrible idea.
Living the Fear of the Walking Dead or something like that.
So this is going to be more of your streaming content that is either it's going to be more like a television show.
Okay.
Although sometimes there are interstitial advertisements that'll happen.
Like Jimmy Fallon's game show.
If I were familiar, I would 100%
Just
agree.
imagine Jimmy Fallon hosting a game show.
That totally sounds like something that people would watch. So that was diplomatic, right?
Sure.
So basically, they have their own programming. So Jimmy Fallon is going to be on Peacock, right? So Peacock has their own programming that people buy direct from them. But then there are these merchants that are third-party brokers that are also selling this inventory. They're reselling that same inventory. And so they get to go over the top. It's a better example might be for someone who's familiar with broadcast TV, where you see these high-quality commercials, and then all of a sudden there's a local commercial that's obviously produced local.
Yeah.
That would be the broadcast
like a
equivalent.
Local car dealer or something. Yeah.
That would be the broadcast equivalent to OTT.
I gotcha. Rodents of unusual size. No, return on ad spend. Sorry, I always get those two confused.
I understand.
So return ROAS.
Yes.
That what is that?
I mean, it's basically.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's your ROI.
So, but how do you? I guess as a business owner, I need to justify that I spent $5,000 last month on pay-per-clicks, and you have to tie that back to revenue somehow, right?
It's a complicated question because it's highly nuanced. So first and foremost, in the United States, anything you do in marketing, from my perspective, is 100% ROI.
This is not tax advice.
It's not tax advice, but for
marketing spends are generally tax deductible. Okay.
Right. So it's dollar for dollar. Excuse me. And so when it comes to return on ad spend, you obviously want this to be incredibly profitable, right? You want to make sure that your margins are positive. The reason why I was saying it's complicated is because in the service-based industries, you might find yourself spending thousands of dollars before you get that one customer that has a lifetime value of 60,000, right? But you spent 5,000 to get there over the course of a month or two, and you don't see any return. So you have to look at it from a wider perspective. So assuming that you're going to spend $5,000 this month or $10,000 this month and get $10,000 back this month, that is the sign of a terrible investor, right? Don't take advice from that person, financial advice from that person, because you're gambling, right? And marketing is not a gamble; it's a risk. There's a big difference, because generally speaking, when you go to the casino, you lose, whereas this is a business expense. It's a calculated expense that's based on strategy. It's based on data. We know it works. It's just not instantaneous, right? You have to prime the pump before you get the water flowing.
We did a whole podcast on marketing funnels, and when we've learned firsthand what happens if you play with your marketing funnel and, for example, you stop advertising. It can slow that funnel up, and that can have negative effects for months or quarters afterwards.
Absolutely.
And I think it's one of those things from my experience in startups. When belts get tightened, the marketing budget is the easiest thing to pull down first, because you don't have to fire anyone. The only person you got to fire is your agency, or
That's the first mistake companies make.
Yeah. So how do you got to kind of go against your gut and even advertise, spend more. We're seeing that, and some companies are actually upping their spends.
Well, right now it's a really weird economic time. Because there are positive indicators and there are negative indicators, right? Like we see in the United States, we see unemployment going up, meaning that there are more unemployed people. However, you look at the markets, and the markets are also going up. So what are the economic indicators that you look at? And then you look at your consumer price index, and those...
Is that still getting released?
So the year over year numbers, we're able to look at, and there's improvement. However, you look around, and the price of eggs, the last time I bought a dozen eggs, it was almost $10.
Right.
So, when you're looking at the numbers, I totally lost track of where I was going with all of this. At the end of the day, and I believe it was you who shared with me that taking your money out of marketing is like taking the battery out of your watch. Time is going to keep on ticking. Right? You're not going to be able to stop time just by making it so your watch stops working.
That's great. That's whoever told you that's brilliant.
It was you.
Oh no. So I wanted to talk about some fabulously disastrous campaigns.
I don't remember any of them. Isn't that amazing? That's how disastrous they were.
No, well, just recently, both McDonald's
Yep.
and Budweiser. Now, this is the second time Budweiser released an all AI campaign for their Christmas promotion. McDonald's just did one as well.
Oops.
And they started, like, they bragged about how many generations it took to get the right prompts and like that. It just seems
AI slop, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we ended up with. AI is only as good as the person using it, right? It's just like a hammer.
Yeah.
You know, you can build a beautiful home with a hammer, but you know what you can also do? You can also destroy stuff with it.
Yeah.
And so
when the home you're going to build, you still have to have the right vision and the right and the other thing that we're seeing too, and you know, I feel like we talk a lot about AI on this podcast because it's just so overwhelming in almost every industry, but in creative industries and in the tech world and in small business, it's just it's on the forefront of lots of people's conversations, and
that's because of really good marketing. No, seriously, because it has us talking about Claude and Gemini and OpenAI, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Midjourney, right? It has us talking about these things, and it's because it's becoming mainstream. It's part of the mainstream consciousness, and people are becoming more and more aware of it because it is infiltrating our content, and the quantity of people on this planet that consume content is ginormous, right? The number, we have billions of users on Meta's platforms, and you know, we're talking about a huge percentage of the global population consumes content, and that content is increasingly AI generated.
And you're seeing a lot of AI generated emails that are personalized to you. You see, you know, AI generated ads where it's like, that isn't even a complete sentence,
right?
Or, you know, it's
getting better.
Sure.
And I think that there will come a time where it's less and less discernible, or there's a style that we become immune to. But I think
there's definitely a distinct style visually with, like, especially with AI graphics.
Currently,
there's like, you can just tell.
Yeah, you can. And will it get better? I don't know. I mean, as a creator myself, I'm both rooting for it and against it, because I don't want to see people move away from the creative industry, because there are tools out there that people are exploiting in an unsavory fashion.
What do you think is the most overrated form of advertising right now?
I would say the most overrated form of advertising right now is AI.
Yeah.
AI-driven advertising. Yeah. I mean,
it loses the authenticity. It loses the connection with the audience, the human connection. And
you know, it's just more crap. It's this AI slop.
Yeah, and it was like the word of the year for somebody. Somebody just declared slop the word of the year. Miriam or one of those.
Right, one of those dictionaries. I think I saw that.
How about the most underrated?
The most underrated,
besides pay-per-click, and which isn't underrated really, but
the most underrated form of advertising.
You know what I like a lot is the retargeting. I think retargeting is very valuable and underrated. Going to somebody's website, interacting with the website, and then seeing their ads later, even if I didn't buy something, brings them back to my mind, and it's kind of annoying, but it works.
I think I'd have to agree. It's pretty underrated, and I'm definitely a big fan of remarketing and retargeting coupled together, where you're both marketing back toward people who have come to your website, but also you've examined the data And there are platforms that algorithmically examine the data and then retarget to like audiences. So the people who have come to your website, completed the form, and purchased a product or service or scheduled a something, then finding people that match their interests and demographics.
So wrapping up.
Thanks for letting me cheat off you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Give me some minimum viable strategy for a small, medium-sized business. They want to advertise. What are the absolute need things that they need to have?
I think that we've already kind of hit on them. So you need SEM, and that's that's search engine marketing. That's your pay-per-click advertising. Right. So Google Ads, for example.
Sure.
Then there's the display ads, the remarketing, retargeting. Mm-hmm. Love that. And then I would say that the top of funnel marketing, whether they prefer doing, because it's a comfort zone, right? Whether they prefer doing digital or print is something that has to be ascertained. And if the budget allows for both, then I would say do both. And so in print, it would be direct mail. And in digital, it would be the top of funnel emails.
I think that's good. I think where in that do you put a podcast content marketing strategy? Is that
so? That goes in the content bucket.
Yeah.
And so that content bucket serves a multitude of purposes. It's very passive.
Yep.
It is definitely
long tail.
It is, but it shouldn't be based on the idea of getting conversions. It should be based on the fact that you're staying current on the trends going on in your industry and then broadcasting that. And this helps for everything from SEO, AIO, GEO, whatever you want to call it, mm-hmm. All the way through to people coming to your social media channels and seeing that you're a viable
your actual humans.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously your personality as a company will come across and you know, hopefully you're not using some AI driven social media platform. But there's no question that genuine authenticity, that personality comes across one way or the other. And so that content strategy could be employed on social media as well.
I think that's a great place to stop. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Brand of Brothers. Big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Remix, the branding agency, along with production assistance from Johnny Diggz, Simon Jacobson, and me, Doug Berger. We can't forget music by PRO. Speaking of not forgetting, remember to do that like and subscribe thing and find us at brandshowlive.com and follow us on the socials at Brand Show Live.